Alright, so for this week's book Babble, I'm going to talk about how the author really is within his own story. Within Death of a Salesman, the play written by Arthur Miller, you can see a lot of Arthur Miller within the play. Now, what I'm talking about by seeing a lot of him, I mean you see his life and how it influences the story. Because the story isn't just written in a bubble, it's influenced by a lot of exterior elements. And Foster gets onto this idea about the idea of one story. But even moving on away from that, we see that the author really, his life really influences the story. So I went through and I kind of looked up a few things about Arthur Miller, and I found out a lot about his history. He's kind of a rags to riches story. Grew up in the Great Depression, so he had to deal with the time period of economic uncertainty. And there was several things I found. But first, I found that his father's business failed. So Arthur Miller's father's business failed, whereas in the play, Willie, the father of Biff, his business also fails. So we see this sense of failure in there. But the rags to riches part of the story comes in because within the play, Willie, he doesn't be able to achieve his American dream. He doesn't find success. But on the contrary, Miller, as his own author, whenever he writes Death of a Salesman, he has not found success yet. So I think there was a sort of an insecurity within Miller's life that really prompted him to really write the story, and because maybe he was anticipating failure for himself, much like his father. I mean, he eventually went on to be successful, but you have to remember the year the play was written and what was affecting Miller during that time period. There was also another idea that I noticed that paralleled between Miller's life and the play. Within the play, Willie, he definitely cheats on his wife. There's that level of there might be even more cheating than what we see, and there isn't a good relationship between his wife and him. Where in Miller is much like this with his own life. He leaves his first wife for Marilyn Monroe, and then eventually as he's older, he gains a lover, and then he tries to marry someone else when he's like 89 years old. So Miller has multiple marriages, and this correlates directly to the way Willie is. So he doesn't really worry about cheating on his wife, and that idea and that theme and just really the idea is in the play because of Miller and his past. And it was just really interesting to see that there was a lot of Miller's life really implemented into the story.